All right, so in this video, we're going to be looking at another video concerning mutations. We're going to be talking about them a little bit differently in this time. And so, again, mutations are a change in the DNA, and that change in the DNA can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, can be a no thing. Here's an example of this mouse called, I think it's called the rock pocket mouse. And obviously, this mouse is very well camouflaged, and a mutation occurred where the color change happened. Well, in this particular mouse now is really well suited on the rock, whereas the brown mouse probably needs to stay off the rock, and the dark gray black mouse needs to stay off the white rocks. And so you're going to have eventually, we're going to talk about this more in the evolution unit. This could cause something called speciation if these two groups are become distinct over time. And so we're going to look at some different types of genetic mutations based on chromosome changes. And one of those things is called polyploidy. Um, we have heard the words haploid and diploid, and haploid stands for just one pair or one set of the chromosomes, like a gamete, and diploid is when both of the pairs present, one from mom, one from dad. We are diploid organisms. So a polyploid organism is essentially going to have more than two in a pair. All right. For some organisms, this is a good thing. For some organisms, this is a bad thing. Polyploidy can occur through errors in mitosis. It can occur through errors in meiosis as well. And an error in meiosis is going to have a more systemic change because the error in meiosis causes a change in the gamete. The gamete is half of the first cell that is made of an organism. So all the cells in that new organism are going to be different. Um, so I'll give some examples before I start talking about plants. We've talked about triploidy before, where if you have three of a particular gene, and that can cause some problems. So particularly in animals, can cause issues. We have, there's a common disorder known as Down syndrome, where those individuals have three chromosomes in their 21st group. So sometimes it's called trisomy 21. There's other examples of trisomy as well. One interesting thing about plants, though, is polyploidy is actually seen as a beneficial thing for some plants. Now, this is going to be interesting because a lot of times this is engineered too. This can't happen in the wild, but this has to do with engineering a lot. And when you have, the strawberries, for example, there's wild strawberries there in the bottom half of your screen, and these are smaller. Well, these bigger strawberries that you're used to seeing in the grocery store are polyploid strawberries. They're bigger, they're more robust, and so for plants, having more having more genetic material in this case actually causes it to be more robust. Well, in bananas, the bananas that we eat, actually, they're called, I have it written down here in my notes, Cavendish bananas. May have mispronounced that. They are triploid bananas. So they have three chromosomes in each set. And this causes them to have no seeds, which is great for us who are eating bananas. I've never even eaten a banana with seeds. I can't imagine that. I expect a certain thing with banana, and seeds is not one of those things. But in the wild, a banana is going to have seeds, right? And it's so it can reproduce, which is what they do. But the bananas on the shelf at the grocery store don't need to reproduce; they just need to be eaten. And so this is a particular adaptation that we have created in order to suit our own needs. So here's a picture of trisomy. This is trisomy 17, and this is actually not a human karyotype. The reason that I know is because there aren't enough pairs here. This is a baboon karyotype, and I read an article about trisomy 21 or trisomy 17 in baboons, and I don't remember the conclusions of the article. I just remember this picture. Sorry, that wasn't very helpful. And so here's a picture of some environmental changes that can occur. Wheat is a great example of this. So you have two different versions of wild wheat, one that is diploid 28 and another that's diploid 14. And the hybrid between the two creates two different offsprings, right? You have a diploid 21, which is sterile. Why is it sterile? Because it can't produce correct pairings when meiosis occurs, right? 21 is an odd number, and so it doesn't do right. But it creates this other hybrid, which actually causes the chromosomes to be doubled instead of cut in half. And what you have is a more robust wheat. And this is bread wheat. This is what we eat. And so from these two wild species comes this one that has just basically fed the world for centuries now. This particular environmental change led to the boon of civilization, which is just fascinating if you think about it. And so polyploidy in plants is typically leads to more robustness. It can lead to sterility, which in the case of those bananas is a good thing for us. But for something like wheat, it leads to this more robust plant, produces more fruit, and keeps us all going from day to day, which is a nice thing. Thank you, bread wheat.